If you're a black woman who watches Love Island that doesn't like the way that black women are portrayed, that doesn't like how black women almost always get the short end of the stick on these dating shows, I have a question for you, which is why have you continued to watch? Hey y'all, it is Janice on the mic. We gotta talk. I have been seeing so many of my fellow black women on social media, in particular on Instagram, talking about Love Island. Now, to give a little bit of backstory on me, the last Love Island I watched was several seasons ago, because when I did watch, maybe a couple years ago, it was too many episodes. It was slow, and I just was like, I'm not watching. Even this past season with Olandria, I did not watch, but I saw so much of the social commentary going on online. And the reason that I don't watch Love Island is the reason why I don't watch a lot of dating shows. The Perfect Match and I don't know, Love is Blind. I've been divested from Love is Blind a couple seasons ago. I think I watched a little bit of the Minnesota season because I'm a former Minnesotan. And I was like, let me see what they talking about. But I knew it would be boring. And I feel like Vanessa and Nick Lachey are biased. And it's a combination of the fact that I feel like Love is Blind is just so contrived, and the fact that so many of these dating shows, I was a huge fan of Married at First Sight. Married at First Sight is like one of the worst offenders because of the way that black women are treated on these shows. As somebody that is very pro-black woman, I don't like how black women are treated on these dating shows. So I divested from them. And what is baffling to me is that I see so many black women on my Instagram talking about this current season of Love is Blind. I see so many people talking about specifically what's going on with the black characters on the show. And I just am like, we know how these dating shows treat black women, but in particular, darker skinned or more melanated black women always get the short end of the stick on these TV shows. I think an exception is AD. I think that was her name, but AD was on Love is Blind a couple seasons back with Clay. I do remember their names, and he did her dirty. He led her on, and then at the end, he didn't end up like saying I do at the altar. And then she ended up with Ali, light-skinned British guy, and they were cute or whatever. I think it was Casa Amor where things were kind of funny with them, but AD is an exception. But I think it's like the humiliation ritual. I think black women can do decent on these shows when it's like they've been on the show multiple times. But when it's your first time on the show, I just feel like 95% of the time, black women end up getting the short end of the stick. I know the first season of Love is Blind, there was I don't know if y'all consider her more melanated or like brown skin. I think she's more brown skin. I forget their names, but it was a black woman and she ended up marrying, and I think they just had a child with Cameron and, what's her name? Need for Speed is her name on Instagram. I think she did okay. There's a Married at First Sight with Vincent, who was a Hispanic man and a black woman, and she was more melanated. And their story was good. They ended up getting married, had a kid, but like the majority of these dating shows, black women always end up, and specifically melanated, darker skinned black women always end up getting the short end of the stick. So for me, I don't like to give my energy to shows, to people, to companies, to entities that I know are not giving me what I want. So I think that it's really important for us, especially as black people, as black women, if we are not liking what we're seeing on these dating shows, we need to stop watching. Because my thing is, continuing to watch these shows, to do commentary on YouTube and on other social media, to complain about the same issue every single season is literally insanity. These producers know that rage bait is great for ratings. Everyone talking about Olandria and I don't know, the Arab girl from the last season who said something racist. She dated the light-skinned guy Louis Louis's been on every dating show, I feel like. The Perfect Match, maybe? Louis was on. I can't even remember. So many shows. But she said, she laughed. I think they called Delandria the N-word, something. And she laughed with Louis and then came back and said, oh, I didn't hear what they said. Why do we keep watching these shows, y'all? Like, I get that they're entertaining. It's like Bad Girls Club, right? Bad Girls Club, though, was equal opportunity. It was like entertainment, but it was like terrible. I made a video, and I think it's private on my channel, but I made a video like 10 years ago about Love and Hip Hop. And I was talking about how it portrays Black people in very like stereotypical ways. It makes us like it just plays into the horrific stereotypes about Black people. And I was like, I don't understand why we as Black people continue to watch. I understand how someone who is Black, like Mona Scott Young, can produce a show because it's making money. Same reason a Black man created World Star, because it's, you know, it's profitable, right? And I guess people could argue, if I'm not a fan of the Shade Room. You know, I respect what the creator has built, but the energy in the comments and the stuff that they post, I'm not the hugest fan of them. Like, I think if we don't like something, don't give it energy. You know what I'm saying? And so it just makes no sense to me that there are so many Black women. We are like one of their main demographics that watch these shows, right? We complain about how Black women are treated on these shows constantly. Excuse me, it's a constant thing. I remember Married at First Sight. I can't even remember their name, but it was a more melanated Black woman. And it was a guy she was paired with. I don't remember his name, but he just saw her as a sexual object. He wasn't even really like, I don't even think he was physically attracted to her. And I think later on he said that, but they slept together. And she was so confused because it's like, we're supposed to be married. If you're not attracted to me, why sleep with me? Why even like play this game? And it's like Black women always end up getting the short end of the stick. And so I just wanted to come on here and say, I think if you are somebody who, specifically if you're a Black woman that is watching Love Island and you don't like what you see, if you like what you see, ignore what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? But if you're a Black woman who watches Love Island that doesn't like the way that Black women are portrayed, that doesn't like how Black women almost always get the short end of the stick on these dating shows, I have a question for you, which is, why have you continued to watch? And I would love to hear your comment I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section, because I was trying to rationalize and say, like, let me put myself in the mind of a watcher. And these shows are super entertaining. Like I said, I'm a huge Bad Girls fan. The last couple seasons, I was in, I don't know how old, I wasn't watching, but like the prime seasons, the stuff with Natalie Nunn and what's her name from New York, banging the pots, I'm forgetting her name. The OG Bad Girls, like, we all watched. And it was terrible, but it was like equal opportunity terrible, because all women of all races, ethnicities, backgrounds were just being portrayed horribly by the producers, but it was intriguing. But if Bad Girls Club was just showing Black girls specifically in a terrible light and Black girls were getting the short end of the stick, I would have stopped watching, you know? And so I'm curious if you're a Black woman who watches Love Island and doesn't like how Black women are treated on the show, how producers contrive all of these scenarios, and just how Black women specifically are treated by fans, right? Like, you see so much racism and misogynoir in the comments and the things that people say about the Black women characters. There's a lack of protection. And so I'm really curious why Black women continue to watch. I know why Black women continue to go on these shows, because that's my next thing. I don't think Black women should be going on these shows. I know why we go on these shows, because we want to be famous. Like, it's like, duh. Because I was listening to something and they were like, why do Black women even go on the show? And I'm just like, because you want to go viral. And I know Alandria is like a once in a lifetime type of star, but her star is shining so bright, and none of that would have happened if she hadn't been on Love Island. right? I don't know if she stayed on the show the whole time. I just see her on social media and I'm like, yes, girl, go ahead. And I think in this day and age, when so many things are vying for our attention, we should be more discerning with where we put our energy. Especially if you are somebody who, I feel like every Black woman has a horror story when it comes, or multiple horror stories when it comes to dating, modern dating. And even though I have not been, I have some old videos, maybe some of them are still on my YouTube channel. When I first moved to New York and I was like trying to navigate dating, which was like over a decade ago, I was doing online dating and meeting people the more old-fashioned way. I have some horror stories. Doing online dating, I had some horror stories. And so I think that if I were somebody who were single and I was trying to find a good partner, but more specifically, I was trying to find and mate and partner with a Black man, watching these shows would not be good for my psyche. Even as somebody who's already partnered, who is not looking, I just find these shows to be deeply triggering because I think about like future generations and what they have to go through, or they will have to go through. And it's just infuriating to me. It's just very infuriating. And so I just think we should rethink where we are putting our energy. I think there's a lot of energy harvesting. Not to get too deep. Somebody might watch this and be like, girl, it's not that deep. It's just a dating show. But I do think it is that deep because I think where our energy goes, things manifest. And if you're watching things that are just replicating what's already happening in real life, I don't think that that is doing anything to solve the issue. Now, the counter argument to somebody, a Black woman who watches these shows and disagrees with how Black women are portrayed, you might say, well, if we speak up enough on social media or complain or point out the flaws with how these shows are cast, how they're edited, maybe that will lead to changes. I beg to differ. I think producers know what they're doing. They know that rage baiting, especially rage baiting Black women, is the most profitable. That's how you make money, is rage baiting us. So I think the producers know that and they are not going to stop because again, it's so popular to degrade and denigrate Black women. Denigrating Black women is like so profitable. And so I think that they will not, my opinion, the producers will not stop doing what they're doing because it's profitable. The more these Black women, my fellow Black women, we talk about these shows, we complain about them, the more it's generating attention. Things just show up on my timeline and I'm like, why are y'all watching? If you hate it so much, if you don't like it, if you're complaining about the content, stop watching. We underestimate the power that we actually have to create change. If collectively, the people that did not like how Black women were treated on these shows, we all came together and said, we are going to boycott. We are not watching until we see changes in casting, in how Black women are treated, how the show is edited, how the protections that Black women provide. I watched a video where they said that one of these networks was in the comments like kikiing about something. Something was said about a Black woman on maybe Love Island, and the network Peacock, I think it is, was in the comments kikiing about something. I just think that is not protection. That is not protecting Black women. That is throwing Black women to the wolves when you know how these shows already go for Black women. You cast people that say they like Black women, but I guess they don't. Black women always are often the last ones chosen on these shows. And then on top of that, when things happen on the show, Black women are attacked. There's so much vitriol, and I don't see these networks stepping in to protect Black women. And so I think if Black people or whoever dislikes the portrayal of a group of people on the show, if we all came together and said, we are not going to watch anymore, they would have no choice but to change things. Because Black women's commentary is what's really fueling the show, right? And all of these think pieces and this and that and the racial stuff. If there was no racial issues on these shows, it would not be as interesting. People would not be watching. And so I just, I'm open to, if you are watching this and you see things differently and you do think that like raising your voice will create changes. I just don't think producers are incentivized to change things. Complaints don't matter if you're making money. If you're making a ton of money as a network, we want people to complain because that's what's gonna, you know, it's like, what did that Kanye West song say? It gets the people going. That's what's getting the people going, and that's what's gonna get the ratings up. So I would love to hear your thoughts, specifically if you are a Black woman who does watch these shows. Why do you watch? Especially if you don't like how Black women are portrayed. You might be a Black woman who's like, I don't care how Black women are portrayed on the show. And for that, I'm not asking you the question, but for my fellow Black women who watch the show, these types of dating shows, and don't like how Black women are portrayed, but continue to watch Love Island, why do you watch? And what do you think it will take to get Black women's portrayal on these shows to be more positive, right? I personally think the casting needs to change. Yeah, you might say you like Black women because it's, you know, that's what the producers may want to hear. But are they checking your social media? You love Black women, but are you with any Black women? Are you in community with Black women? How did they vet these people who come on the show? I don't really know. But another thing is like how the show is edited, right? To make Black women look a certain way. Another thing is the lack of protection that Black women receive when they are on these shows. And I just think like, yeah, there's, you know, it's just, what's happening on these shows is just a microcosm. It's not happening in a vacuum. What's happening on the shows is what's happening in society. But I think if we don't like what's happening in society or on these shows, at least on these shows, we can divest from them. We can log off. We can refuse to tune in. So I don't understand what all this faux outrage is if y'all are continuing to watch. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think. And thank you for watching. And I will see y'all in the next video.